Do you remember the Ultimate Orange pre-workout?
All right, so the Ultimate Orange pre-workout, of course, I remember that. There wasn't a lot of pre-workouts back in the day. I mean, when I first started, to be truthful, I took basically a fat burner to get energy to work out, or a cup of coffee from McDonald's. I literally had a black cup of coffee, small coffee on the way. I think it was like 80 cents or something back in that day. But Ultimate Orange, there was always wonder if there was something extra in that pre-workout. I know they marketed the hell out of it in the magazines. This is prior to social media, so I think everyone on the planet at that time tried that pre-workout, and I mean that was like one of the more powerful pre-workouts at the time. But supplements were expensive, and be truthful, when I was at that younger age, that's one thing I tried to focus a lot on the food because, supplements, I remember when I bought my first thing of protein from GNC and I brought it home and I put it on the counter and, based on the ads, I'm like, wow, this is the secret to getting huge. And needless to say, I drank it all in one day, which was crazy. But I mean, from then on, I mean, I was limited what I could actually purchase, but I know Ultimate Orange must have made a fortune. I know everyone on the planet probably tried it. But I think today supplements are definitely way more advanced. I think the research has been done, and I think there's certain products that are absolutely necessary if you want to go for a building routine and recovery and just to feel better in the gym. But yes, Ultimate Orange was like the main advertised product in the magazines, and I'm sure, like I said, just like myself, everyone tried it.
Tell us about your golf course construction days.
So my golf course construction days, so as a lot of people know, I grew up in a family business doing concrete. So I started that job when I was about 11. That's when my brothers started the business. And my brothers are in the early 60s now, so they're just a little over 10 years, probably 12 years older, 13 years older. So, me at 11, them in their early 20s, that's when they started the concrete business. Now, my dad worked as a superintendent for the highway department. So when he retired at 65, he actually came and worked a lot with us, laying foundations, pouring concrete. And I feel like that attributed to much success of my later career. I mean, I had developed the body, the work ethic. I mean, the work ethic was crazy. We worked all the time, after school vacation, weekends. My brothers were very hard on me, but at the same time, it really grew me up super fast. And I did that until I graduated high school. And then obviously going to college, I was limited because I worked a job and I was, in school all day. And then, I worked security job on the weekends at the time. And that was part of my bodybuilding venture where I really started lifting weights. But I worked at my sister's restaurant for a minute. She had like a small breakfast, lunch, dinner type restaurant. So I did some cooking there. And then my mom helped me get a job at a golf course doing golf course maintenance. And I can honestly say to this day, that was probably the most enjoyable job I've ever done. And I would actually compare it a lot to bodybuilding because I was actually, I was working for someone, but like we worked super early. So I was up at I remember training for teen nationals at the time. I was 19. I was getting up at 3 a.m, riding the bike, and then I was going to work for like 4 o'clock, and I was mowing greens and fairways, and I started doing irrigation there. I learned a lot in that job, actually. So when I actually, worked in that business, like I would be sitting, waiting for the sun to come up to mow, but it gave me a lot of peace, like being on a golf course. And I'm very upset that I didn't take advantage of actually playing golf because I was so entrenched in bodybuilding and training for teen nationals at the time. So remember, it's a seasonal thing because we did have winters and we got laid off in Massachusetts. But that was a very peaceful position for me, and like I said, I moved up to the point where, I was fixing irrigation heads, and on the weekends I'd go in and I'd mow greens, but we had to stay ahead of all the golfers because they'd start teeing off at 6 a.m. So you can imagine, we had to get a couple greens ahead or they would catch up to us before we were finished. But I loved that job. I'm thankful for the people that I worked with. Really, it was a great learning experience for me. But, those were the early days of work ethic before I was able to finance myself as a bodybuilder. And I believe that golf course job might have been the last job that I fully worked on a full-time salary before I started getting sponsored in bodybuilding. And, I did some odd stuff, but I was mostly focused on bodybuilding at that point. And, I never looked back from there pretty much.
Will you ever do a fit over 50?
So fit over 50, I've been talking about this lately since we had such great success for the Fit 450, because I turned 50 in August last year. I'm looking at doing something for 51. So I think every year I want to challenge myself, since it's not about stages. It's just about transforming my body, giving myself, that push every year to try to maintain and, get my body lean, maybe get a little more muscular. It just comes down to last year, I was traveling extensively, especially as we got into August and finishing off the Fit 4. And then I did the Masters and everyone thought I was going to guest pose there or whatever. But it was more just for myself and just looking better. But yes, I do plan on doing another Fit 4. I know a lot of people joined from my community to push themselves, and no matter what the age is, because what I learned is I was doing Fit for 50, but they were doing Fit for 40, 45, 50, 60. I mean, everyone, different ages, were entrenched in what I was doing, and I was able to put out what it was. But maybe I'll be a little more particular about, setting out the diet each week, showing more progress, and getting people more actively involved, because I feel like everyone needs a push, and a lot of people probably like myself, they're not really aiming to get on a stage. So the end game is really important to really help improve their physiques.
What macros would you eat as a natural lifter in your 50s?
Okay, so natural lifter in their 50s, I mean, obviously I have some enhancement with the testosterone, but, listen, the food is basic. I think a lot of you guys try to complicate how you eat. So it's about lean proteins and great sources of carbohydrates. Obviously, I keep the fats really low. So, I'm not eating salmon. I mean, now I don't eat a ton of red meat, but I do eat lean meat sometimes, like bison, chicken breasts, some fish, turkey, egg whites, protein powders. I mean, it's all pretty standard, but it's all about having a sequence of food every 2.5 hours, 3 hours. I think that's what people are missing in their 50s, because number one, we may not have the appetite. Number two, the time frame. You got to keep the food flowing. So no matter what, if you're trying to get in great shape, I don't care if you're natural or not, I still think you need 5 or 6 portion meals a day. Ideally, that's going to be from the time span that most people are awake. You have to structure your meals and eat consistently to keep that metabolism going, keep the body firing. That's the only way you're really going to make that super progress. So I would try to put 6 meals a day in there. Put it on your refrigerator like I started in the beginning, and you map it out. Sometimes you got to journal this, whether you use your phones or you use an actual journal. That's the only way you're going to stay on track. So I would suggest, no matter what, if you're enhanced or not enhanced, it's all particularly the same. Obviously, you got to structure it so you're not eating too much in large portions, because obviously you're going to put on body fat. It all comes down to genetics too. But I think that, it needs to be simplified. And there needs to be a good set of eyes on you, and track pictures every week or 2 weeks to see how your body composition is changing. And just try to build the leanest, most muscular physique you can. We all have different goals on what to have in our mind for that physique, but anything is possible.
How did you deal with soreness while competing?
Soreness while I was competing, how did I deal with it? Tissue work, saunas. I stretched a lot, drank a lot of water. There's a lot of ways that you can avoid muscle soreness, but remember, that's the judgment on the success of the workout. So if I was really sore a day or 2 days after working out, I knew that the workout was super beneficial for me. To be honest, these days I don't train as hard to get super sore. That's not my goal. Sometimes I will when I do legs or whatever else, or I'm really engaging or going high intensity, but I think that doing the tissue work, flushing the lactic acid, there's not a lot of supplements I necessarily used for that. I know, people drink some juices or whatever else. I think the tissue work for sure, once a week, it's going to keep the muscles more pliable, keep all those nutrients flowing, release that lactic acid, Really, drink a lot of water. That's really going to be your most benefits, and stretching, and, just staying pliable. And, you're going to, be sore once in a while, but I mean, it's not going to be so drastic every single week if you keep, doing things to your body and, keep everything tuned up.
And lastly, how important is quality sleep?
How important is sleep? Now, I can't stress this enough. I mean, I'm a 5 to 6 hour a night sleeper, right? Where I feel like I needed more. I mean, I would sleep 12 hours sometimes when I was in full training, when I was in my 20s, early 30s, because I was training twice, 3, 4 times a day sometimes. But I really depend on your output. But sleep is absolutely necessary. And a lot of people are dealing with sleep apnea now. Unfortunately, I never had to deal with that. It's just, you have restless sleep. Sometimes you're woken up, whether you guys have kids or, something's affecting you. I just feel like you do need to give yourself that deep REM sleep pattern. I think 5 hours is absolutely necessary in one stint. Not to say you can't take naps during the day. I was always napping after my second or third meal during the middle of the day, just to, give my body more rest, because that's when you're actually recovering, growing more. But most important, try to get that deep sleep. If you have, to sleep in certain places that are, it's noisy or whatever else. I mean, using the earplugs, whatever else. If it's too light, make sure you darken the room up. Put yourself in that zone. Recover. That's when you're going to grow the most. But it's absolutely necessary, and just keep pushing yourselves forward. All right. We appreciate all the questions here on the Cutler Nutrition YouTube channel. And I want to thank you guys for following along, and please comment below. If you guys have a question for me and you'd like me to answer, I'm answering these questions every few segments. I'll talk about products, I'll talk about training, lifestyle, food, whatever it is you guys want to ask. Feel free to ask, and keep following along, and we appreciate all the support.